Hello guys. Hi and welcome. Everybody, can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you and I can see your picture. Maybe Sohaib can confirm.
Yeah, I can hear him. I can hear him well. I can see his presentation as well. You can go
Okay.
ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you. So welcome to this session, the first session in Dynamics 365 FinOps Power Summit. That is in Sunday. That is had in Sunday. We're gonna talk about the using Regression Suite Automation Tool. I am Mohammed Al-Sahib. I am 29 years old. Dynamics AX 365 technical architect and a developer in Dar al-Handasa in Beirut, Lebanon. I've started in 2012 as a developer, and I come from a full stack web development background. I started my career in AX in 2015. During my first couple of years as a developer, I started to enhance the enterprise portal in AX 2012 and integration with legacy systems. Then went to other components and modules. I am also a Microsoft certified trainer for 2020-21 and an active member and a blogger. I try to write blogs that really make a difference and give impactful ideas based on my real life experience. I am someone who really loves answering your questions in the community, and I really try my best to answer them before the legends in D365. I'm also a founder of D365 Arabic, D365 بالعربي, a small meetup group and a study group. We are currently 20 volunteers and participants with technical and functional backgrounds based in UAE, Lebanon, Egypt, and Jordan. We usually discuss and have our tech talks in Arabic. I actually got this idea to launch this group from this beautiful community when they held 365 Saturdays and were conducted in different languages. So this is a small briefing of who I am, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. These are my LinkedIn profile, email address, and my blog in the community of Community Dynamics. So what we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk about the Rsat, the objectives of the Rsat, and the background of it. We will be defining what is Rsat and where it is recommended to use Rsat, ways to implement Rsat using the lifecycle services, business process modeler, of course with the collaboration with Azure DevOps. And since this option is optional, so you can directly upload your recordings to Azure DevOps, so without the use of LCS, the lifecycle services, and the business process modeler. Also, we will look at the new features that Rsat 2.1 has, and this latest update is actually published in a couple of days. It was 21st of January. I really encourage you to read the release notes, and also we will take a look about these new features with the change test and derived tests. Lastly, we will conclude our session with the best practices. So what is actually Rsat? Why we need to use Regression Suite Automation Test? Rsat, the main purpose of it is to define a methodology to help the project managers to create test suites and to automate these test suites from end to end. And these test suites will speed up the acceptance whenever there is a new application, a new configuration, a new customization. Microsoft added a new functionality or updated its own functionality. So we need to run these regression tests in a faster pace. It also reduces the time and cost of user acceptance tests of the finance and operation apps. So this is the main objective of the RSAT. And where actually it is located, when do we do this RSAT? This is the famous pyramid that you've seen in the most of the documentations of Microsoft. So business cycle, which is our business process testing, this is where the Regression Suite Automation Tool is intended to be used for business cycles tests and scenario tests. So for that usually occur at the end of the development lifecycle. This is also referred to user acceptance testing. Business cycle testing consists of smaller number of test cases than component or unit testing. The Vsts framework is reliable for writing unit tests because unit tests are generally testing a methodology or testing a method or a function. They should always be data agnostic and dependent only on the input data that's provided as a part of the test. The ATL framework, or the Acceptance Test Library framework is an abstraction on the Vsts framework and makes the functional test writing much more simpler and reliable. This framework should be used for writing components that are simple integrated tests. So RSAT is used for business cycle tests. The business cycle tests, also called regression validation tests, and they are dependent on existing data. And usually functional guys who actually write the FDDs, they can do the RSAT. So it is not a technical, a functional person or can do the RSAT. The RSAT is, of course, the RSAT has the capability to support testing on the cloud POS, Dynamics 365 Commerce. Also had the ability to test the warehouse app, mobile app. So you can use the RSAT in combination with the warehouse app task validation framework to automate the testing of warehouse process. And when you unit test and component test, for the unit test, we do not recommend that you use RSAT. So instead, use the Vsts framework and the build test automation tool. Of course, for the component test, take advantage of the acceptance test library. ATL is a library of X+ test helpers. When used with the Vsts framework, it offers many benefits. So it will let you create consistent test data. It increases the reliability of test code. It provides improved discoverability of the method that are used to create the test data. And of course, it hides the complexity of the setting up prerequisites and support high performance of test cases. There are plenty of information online for the ATLs, the acceptance test library resources. I encourage you to check them and try to automate these kind of tests. For data integration testing, RSAT, do not use RSAT for data integration testing. Instead, rely on the data management framework, also known as the DIXF. The data task automation framework enables you to configure and automate the testing of your data integration scenarios. So the Regression Suite Automation Tool, RSAT, significantly reduces the time and cost of user acceptance test, the UAT. And UAT is typically required before you take a Microsoft application update or before you apply custom code and configuration to your production environment. So RSAT lets functional power users record business tasks by using the task recorder and then convert the recording into a suite of automated tests without having to write source code. And this is the power of it. So no need to write any source code. You just record use the recording tool and record the steps. So this is the exact steps that are found in the Microsoft product documentation, where the first you need to record the test, save the test to BPM, which is Business Process Modeler, that comes with the lifecycle management, lifecycle services, the LCS, and then after configuring LCS with Azure DevOps and having the link between Azure DevOps and LCS, you're gonna sync your Rsat library with Vsts or Azure DevOps. Plus, after syncing the Vsts, you're gonna sync your test cases. Automatically, all of the test cases, all the recordings that are found in the BPM will be automatically created in your Azure DevOps. Later on, you can use the Rsat to load all the test cases and to run your execution. The first option that the first steps when you want to save the recordings in the LCS and BPM, it is not mandatory, it's an optional. You can do the Rsat without going to LCS. So this is a small example of the enhancements in the user interface. So the modern user interface and a simplified experience. So Our Rsat 2.1 introduces a new modern user interface that simplifies navigation through the main components of the application. It introduces the quick links tab and facilities navigation to DevOps test suites and test runs. You need to use the left navigation pane to navigate between the test plan, settings, POS settings, and the quick links page. The test plan tab is mainly for is the main tab that allows you to interact with the execute test cases. So the same functionality, but with a better UI. Another in the UI, the enhancement of UI, the settings select in the left navigation. The setting tags is to configure the Rsat settings. So these are new features. For example, the second feature is to test the run timeout 30 to 30 minutes to stop the test run if you have any infinite loops. Another feature we're going to talk about is the pause between steps. You can have the ability to pause the test between each step. You can check if you want to fail the test on the first validation error, if you want to fail it on an info log error that will appear in the test runs, and of course many other features that I really encourage you to check. So all of these, you don't need to save your settings. Settings are automatically saved as soon you navigate out of the settings page, and you can also save your settings in the Rsat setting file or open an existing setting file. You can save them in a config file. So if you want to run the Rsat in a PowerShell, you need a configuration file. So this is, for example, one way you make use of the save as. Also, the message validation with infolog errors, when the option fail test on the infolog is on, a test case is expected to fail when the test environment's infolog shows an error during a test case execution. And this behavior has been working as expected, except when the error message is presented in the message validation tab of the test parameter file, which is located in the Excel file. We're gonna see it in a while. This has been fixed with the Rsat release, and the test case will now fail anytime the infolog contains an error and the fail test in the infolog error is on. Also, we have settings for the Cloud POS. So you can select the Cloud POS setting tab to configure the Rsat to execute the POS test cases. You don't need to save your settings. Also, the settings will automatically be saved as soon as you navigate out of the settings page. Some useful links. The link tab provides new functionality. For example, you can select the link tab to quickly navigate to your finance and operation environment, the Cloud POS, or go to useful Azure DevOps pages showing recent test cases, last test runs, and the current test runs. There is also a link to the RSAT docs page. This is an example of the test parameter Excel file where we have these are the new features. So they had all the fields and values the same in the same sheet, and with the another column was the pause after a specific test. So the pause after a specific test, RSAT now allows you to insert a pause between specific test step. To do so, just insert a value in seconds in the pause column of the test step. This will pause the test case's execution after the test step is completed. If you don't see the pause column, you are using an older version in the Excel parameter file. You just need to regenerate it again and just select the desired test case and go to new, generate test execution and parameter files, and this will overwrite all the edits you have made to the parameters file. You may need to back up the existing Excel file first. Another new feature is RSAT now supports recording that use multiple filters in the filter pane, allows multiple input parameters, one per filter, in the Excel parameter file. Of course, my opinion, the best feature is now you can create formulas that contain saved or copied variables. If you have been using an older version of the Regression Suite Automation Test, you will need to regenerate. And the supported operators are the plus sign, the minus sign, the backslash, and the quotation. Only numerical variables can be used in the Regression Suite Automation Tools formulas. Strings or dates are not supported yet. Always specify the variable name within double braces. For example, here they are using in the criteria the double braces, and this is the copy of the purchase ID. This is the saved variable of the purchase ID. As of RSAT version 1.2.2, you can also use the Excel functions such as the round, concat, and upper to create formulas with the RSAT variables. This feature is implemented using the Excel formula evaluation functionality, so any function supported by Excel is supported by RSAT. A main hint here is RSAT evaluates these formulas during the test execution, so you must precede the formula with a single quote to prevent Excel from attempting to prematurely calculate the formula. So this is an example here when we use the concat formula and the product receipt, where we preceded with one quote. This is mandatory to let RSAT work as requested. This is where the sys-test framework and acceptance test library use the sys-test framework to author unit component test code, to use it to test isolation, test model creation, to manage test code, and form adapters. You can import the task recordings into Visual Studio to generate test codes. This is mainly for developers out there. and you can integrate your test module with the build machine. So I think it's really useful as a project manager or a function consultant to know which unit test in the code can be done, regardless if it is if this part is mostly for developers or not, and despite the RSAT tool that we have seen. Also, in my opinion, that all tasks recorded can be good start to include in the development machine to generate simple test cases. So we're gonna see now a demonstration about two simple tasks. We're gonna create a new customer using the task recorder, and we will link this task to the LCS, and we're gonna use the same creating customer and sales, create a sales order without an LCS, and how we can import the recording in Visual Studio. So let me go to VM. The first thing, we need to download our tool here. So the tool is Regression Suite Automation Tool. So you need to download it in your build VM, in your dev VM, and after downloading it, this is where after downloading it and everything is working fine, you need to set up your configuration. So the first thing, everything will be empty here. Go to settings, and you need to write down the Azure DevOps URL. So we have an Azure DevOps URL. Let me show you. Yeah. So this is my Azure DevOps. So to link the RSAT with Azure DevOps, you need a personal access token. So let's go to our project here. And it's really easy to generate the token. Just click on the user settings and click on the personal access token. And here you can create a new token. Just put a name and put your access. There are plenty of documentation how to create an access token. In my demo here, I have an access token to connect with the LCS, the lifecycle management, to let the BPM sync with the VSTS with Azure DevOps, and another one to link the RSAT with the Azure DevOps. So this is the RSAT here. 1 second. So after creating it, we're gonna put the access token here, and it will load all the projects. For example, here I have only one project. I'm gonna select the project name, and we need to create a test plan. So the test plan is in Azure DevOps. Yeah. So first of all, here in our Azure DevOps, we need to create a test plan. In my demo, I have one test plan, so that's why we're seeing only one test plan in the Azure DevOps. In my opinion, you can create different test plans based on different areas. For example, if you are testing areas in finance or in supply chain, you can separate them in different test plans. This is one way to create test plans, or of course you can separate them in test suites. Okay, so let's test the connection after connecting all of these. And this part here, we need to link our RSAT with the test environment. So here I have my AUS URL, the Dynamics 365 AUL. this is the host name, and the SOAP host name, it is the same as the host name, but after AOS, we're gonna add SOAP. This is just for because RSAT uses SOAP to communicate with the APIs that are under the finance and operation. So that's why we need to put the SOAP URL. Of course, we need to put the admin username, and here is the thumbprint. You can generate new thumbprints. It is a self-signed certificate, so you can generate as much as you want. And one thing that I have faced here, after generating a thumbprint, you need to add it in your WIF. So how can you add it in WIF, which is the Windows Identity Foundation, to let the VM to know that is valid. So go to RIIS. It is a one-time thing you need to go to do. Explore the AOS service, and there in there we have WIF configuration. Let me open it with Notepad. Go down there. So I just need to add an authority that to get this is the same thumbprint that you've seen in the Rsat, and I'm just letting them know that this is the local host of the thumbprint. So this is one thing that I have faced during my preparation of the demo. So I'd like to share it with you guys. And you can choose the company name here. Of course, you can add your working directory and default browser. The default browser, it supports Chrome and Edge, but in my option here, I have only Internet Explorer. I would prefer Chrome or Edge. And under optional, that these features that I have talked about, this is a test run prefix. So this is whenever a test run ran in the Regression Suite Automation Tool, it will be published back. The results will be published back in the Azure DevOps with this prefix. And these are the timeouts, and these some configurations. Also, we have under process, whenever the sign off tasks, whenever the generation, the execution of the test case has been completed, you can enable the sign off task, and you can put the work item task. And for example, here you can send an email to the functional guy here, who might wrote the Rsat or do the recordings in the LCS, or the IT manager or the test manager email address. Okay, so let's start our recording. So this is how we've configured the Regression Suite Automation Tool. So now we need to do the recording. So I have finance and operation. So the first thing you need is to make sure it is in the main dashboard, the default dashboard. This is an important tool to make the recording record in an accurate way. So we go on gear option here and under settings. Then we click on the task recorder. We're gonna create a recording. So let's say create. Start. And we're gonna see that the recording has been started. Go to accounts receivable or customers, and create a new customer here. As you can see, all of the clicks that we are doing, anything that we are doing, it's recorded in the steps task recorder. So that's how the Rsat will execute the testing. So I'm gonna use the G1, and the name is okay. Use this, and the group is 80. And before saving, I want to use this account customer in my another task. For example, if I want to create a sales order for this customer and I want to test it, you can make many chained tests. So I can right-click on the field itself, go to task recorder, and copy. So we have the copy, paste, and validate. So I'm gonna use the copy so I can chain this test with another test. So I'm gonna click on copy, and this has been copied. Save. And it has been saved. Then I'm gonna stop the recording here. So here we have different ways to save the recording. So you can save it to the PC. It will be saved as an AXTR format. This is the format of the task recording, or you can save it directly to the lifecycle service, or you can save it as a Word document for make it as a manual if you want to give it for example to a user. You can use it as a manual here, or save it as a developer recording. It will download it as an XML file, and you can import it in one way. You can import it in Rsat. You can import it. You can import it in Azure DevOps and use it in Rsat, or you can import it in the Visual Studio. So let me now save it to lifecycle services. So now it is actually loading all the lifecycle services, BPM libraries. So if we want to see this, how it is actually happening, I'm gonna go to my LCS. So in the LCS project, we have something called project settings, and we have the Visual Studio Team Service. So this is where we've configured that the Azure DevOps URL site, and we've configured the Rsat demo. Of course, there should be the personal token that I have showed you before. So you need to insert the personal token from the Azure DevOps. After that, it will be linked. It will give us information that the LCS and VSTS has been linked. So let's go back and see our BPM library. Yeah, business process modeler. So I have here the global FinOps. Whenever I had this VSTS, when I want to click on it, we have the VSTS sync. But before, I need to create two components, two processes. So I'm gonna create a new process here, which is let me edit it. Save it. And another one here. Oh. Child. Create. Save it. And I'm gonna keep it like this. Okay, so we have the create sales order and create customer. So let's go back to our system here. So we have two business processes. the first one, which was the previous one, sales order LCS, and the one that we're trying to do our demo on with the global FinOps. So I'm gonna click on this library, and under this library we have these two processes, the create customer and the create sales order. We're gonna click on the create customer and click OK. So we have saved this recording in our BPM. So if you want to see the recording back in the BPM, let me refresh. So here we have the diagram here. You can see that now we have a diagram. Let's see the diagram. And it actually added all the steps that we have done. We have clicked all the customers, the create customers, and so on. So it actually added everything. Let me go back to my let me close this, because I'm gonna use the same task recorder for the without uploading the LCS, so I'm gonna save it as a developer recording also. Okay, I'm gonna keep it here, and I will do another recording for the sales order. Of course, here I need to go back to the main dashboard. Okay, so now I'm gonna create so all sales order. Never mind this. New. For example, here I'm gonna use the same GF1 customer. And by default, after adding the customer account, all of the derived fields will be generated. So if you want also to copy the sales order ID, you can also right click on the task recorder and you can copy the field. So it will be copied. We're gonna click OK. And create a line, item line, for example, D001. Make sure that all of them are saved. It's taking a little bit of time. Yeah, so everything got populated here. It is an one quantity each, and it's a mid-range speaker, and yeah, the warehouse and the site are okay. So let's say we want to validate, for example, the totals here. So let's go to the sales order and click on the view totals. I want to validate the tax of the sales order. Yeah, so here if you want to have there's 0. Let's say we're gonna validate this, for example, the margin in quantity, account currency. You can go to the task recorder and click on validate. After validating, we're gonna use the current value. So this way you can validate whenever you want to run the test code. You can validate that this is the output of this field that needs to be the same number, the current value. So it will fail if it doesn't have the same value. I'm gonna add another one here, so I can show it to you in the Excel file. Okay, and let me save again and stop the recording. I will save it also in my sales order. Sales order, click OK, and save the developer recording. So now in the PPM, you will see 2 recordings. These are 2 recordings. So this is how we've created the test recording with RCS. Now we will sync the LCS with the VSTS and sync our test cases. Okay. So we're gonna go to the business process modeler, click on the VSTS sync, yes. And after syncing, what we're gonna have here in our board work items, we're gonna have new work items that are under the new test library. It'll take a little bit of time. So here are global FinOps. It's an epic. So these are generated from our LCS, the global FinOps. Now let us sync the test cases. So I need to refresh. And after refreshing, I'm gonna click on sync test case. And now here, all of the test cases that we have created in the recording will be under the VSTS. Yeah, so these are the test cases. For example, here we have the create a customer that comes from the LTS. As you can see, you can assign it to someone. These are the steps that has been created. Most importantly is the attachment here. So the attachment here is the XML recordings. That it's the same recordings that we saved it as a developer. So you can this is how you use it without working with the BPM. So you can create, for example, let us create a test case, but let me go first and import it in our test plans. So in my existing test case, I'm gonna run the query here and search for my create customer. Create sales order. So these are the new test cases. So if we want to go back to our Rsat, when we need to load all of these, it will give us a pop-up that the test cases, it will be overwritten. So yes. So these are our new test cases, the global FinOps that we have created. The first thing you need to do is to create a parameter file. So we need to generate the parameter files. The first thing, let's create test execution and parameter files. I faced actually when I'm preparing the demo that my development VM here does not have an activated Excel product, Microsoft Office. So that I have faced an issue whenever I click on the new generate test Excel parameters, an error. So I overcome it by activating the Excel. So these are the parameters. Let us open the parameters by clicking on the parameter files here. And this is where where everything is written. These are the test case ID, the recording, the company. You can change the test user if you want to run the test cases with different user to make sure that, for example, for security roles, you can add your test user here without writing, of course, the password, just his email. And this is where all of the saved variables that we had, because this is a sales order, so we have saved the sales ID. And another sheet, the message validation, you can write here, for example, whenever you want in the message validation, if at the end of the run, if there's no, if the info log message does not have the same message here, it will fail. And most importantly, the sheet with the test cases steps. And this is where all of the fields we have created the field here, which is the customer value and the item number. And these are the validations that we have done, and the column that for the pulses. Let me minimize this first. Another sheet for the same thing for the create customer. For example, here I'm gonna change the value to 2, and here, sorry. Yes, it should work. Okay, and I'm gonna use the copy that we've done with the account number, and I'm gonna use it in my sales Excel parameter. So this is how I'm trying to do the change tests. Okay, I'm just making that it is trimmed, and I'm gonna keep everything as it is, and I'm gonna close these. Yes, save. So we have changed the parameters of these, and of course, if you can change the order of these two. Whenever we select run here, the first thing, it will create a new customer with GFO of O2 with FinOps bootcamp, and we're gonna see how it is automatically run. Of course, it actually uses Selenium. So the test is initializing. It's creating the customer. All of these can be also automated using UI flows. Many documentations are found there. I guess one of our our MVPs, Dynamics 365 MVP, have many documentations and of it. For some reason, my test case and the customer has been has failed. We will double check why. And of course, this will fail because the customer has not did not created. Yeah. So this is how actually we've copied the account number. Yeah. I guess then there's a problem with my parameter file. When I copied, there was a space. It was not trimming. So now I have two failed results. We can see these two failed results in my Azure DevOps. So if I want to see the runs, so after the execution of the Rsat, we have all of the test runs that has been completed with an error or has been completed. So let's see our latest one that we have done today. We have two failed results, and we're gonna see why these two failed results. Also, it has in Azure DevOps, you can make use of these metrics. Gonna go to the test results here, create customer, and the test failed because there's something with the third-party verification. Okay, you can fix this, and all of the attachments has been also done. You can link it to a bug, so you can create a bug from the test case, and so on. So another way without using the LCS is to actually create from the test plan a test case. So let's create a new test case here, and let's say create customer. And we go to our attachment and add an attachment. So the attachment here is actually the, for example, here we have the create customer, the XML file that we have saved as a developer. So the main thing we need to do is the name of the create customer XML should be the same as the test case, or you can keep it as recording. So in my case here is like this, save it. And let me go back to our Rsat. I'm gonna load everything. Yes. And here is our new create customer. Before we had the same thing, the create customer O2. I'm gonna generate the test plan. And you can run the create customer as it is. The same way you've created before. We've done it with LCS. It will be the same thing in the Azure DevOps. Also, another option here, you can do derived tests. So if you want to generate multiple tests with the same exact steps, but you don't need to redo the recording again. So you can generate a new derived test. Just select on the test case and create a derived test. For example, of this is I want to run this kind of test under a company USMF, for example, or another company which is a USRT. So it has the same attributes of the create customer, and you can run it sequentially, or of course you can move it to another test suite. I still have 5 minutes here. So the XML file that we have done is also we have downloaded. It also can be included in our dev VM. So under Dynamics 365, you can go under add-ins, import task recording. So this is where we can import our task recordings and create our unit tests. And browse it and import. This is an example of the sales order. Of course, firstly, it will create these annotations. And I would like you to add these also annotations that test the sys transaction to make it auto rollback. So whenever data has been created, it will delete it at the end of the test. And these two annotations, the sys category and the test owner, is just for information. You can make use of these in the automation and under the build pipeline. There are plenty of documentation out there when you can add these under the build pipeline under automation. So let me go back to my presentation. So what are the best practices? So the best practices here, just to make sure that all the recordings start on the main dashboard, keep individual recordings short and focus on the business task performed by one user. For example, create a sales order that simplifies maintainability and reusability of these test cases. When creating a recording, make sure to select tab header, even if the tab is already open. Also, Rsat cannot play back any test steps that is not recognized by the task recorder. For example, you cannot upload a file from a local disk during a playback of the test case, and Rsat cannot play back a page refresh step. Avoid refreshing a page while recording your tests. These are some of the best practices. There are many others, and I guess I'm on time. I would like to thank you for listening. I really hope you had a great time. Thank you for your proactive answers and discussions in the community that are always interviewing and thought-provoking with D365. In the end, there's no question. No question is a bad question, and we will benefit from each other's contributions. Actually, these boot camps and the one day event like 365 Saturdays are essential to help us solve the challenges we face in our real life, and the amount of information we get is really magnificent. Being able to connect with you with like-minded peers, and thanks to all the MVPs who are paving the way to all of us. If you have any questions, please let me know. These are my contact information. I'm on time. Okay.
Thank you, Mohammed, for your presentation. Where are you dialing in from today?
I'm actually currently in Beirut, Lebanon.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what time is it over there then?
It is 9 a.m.